Here is the fully adapted and localized Part 1 of the script designed for the U.S. audience and formatted specifically for 11 Labs. On an ordinary day, the photographer from my daughter's wedding called me with a trembling voice, asking me to come to his studio immediately. "Mrs. Emily, I found something terrible in the wedding photos. Come to the studio right now." Those were his words. My heart raced. What kind of secret could be hiding in those images from the happiest day of my daughter's life? What I was about to discover would change everything. It would make me question if the wedding I paid $25,000 for had even been real. But before we continue, make sure you are already subscribed to the channel Elderly Stories and write in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. The phone rang on a Thursday afternoon while I was watering the orchids on the terrace. It was a humid September day in Houston, that sticky heat that clings to your skin. I thought about not answering. Unknown number, probably telemarketing, but something made me pick up the cell phone. "Hello, Mrs. Emily." The male voice sounded nervous, almost whispering. "This is Michael Porter. I was the photographer for Sarah's wedding 4 months ago." My chest tightened immediately. The memories of that day came back in flashes. Sarah radiant in her white dress, Daniel smiling by her side, the guests applauding. $25,000 that I saved for years to give my daughter the wedding of her dreams. "Yes, I remember. Did something happen with the photos?" Silence on the other end. Then he continued, his voice even lower. "Ma'am, I need to speak with you in person. I found something in the images, something very serious. Please come to my studio tomorrow morning, and do not say anything to Sarah. It is important." I felt my hands trembling. "What kind of thing? Tell me now." "I cannot explain it over the phone. Tomorrow at 9. The address is downtown. Please, Mrs. Emily, come alone." He hung up before I could ask anything else. I stood there with the watering can still in my hand, water dripping from the plants and forming a puddle on the terrace floor. My heart was beating wildly. What had he found in those photos? I tried to concentrate on the rest of the day, but it was impossible. I made dinner on autopilot. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, but I barely tasted the food. Sarah called at night like she did 3 times a week since she got married. "Mom, are you okay? Your voice sounds weird." "I am fine, honey, just a little tired." The lie came out too easily. "How are things over there?" She talked about her job at the real estate agency, about the plans to remodel the kitchen in their apartment, about how excited Daniel was with a promotion. Her voice overflowed with happiness. Every word of hers was a dagger in my chest because I knew she was hiding something, or rather something was being hidden from her, something the photographer considered so grave he could not even mention it over the phone. When I hung up, I went to the living room closet and took out the wedding album. I spent over an hour analyzing every photo. Sarah and Daniel cutting the cake, the first dance, the bouquet toss. Everything seemed perfect. So what had Michael seen? I slept poorly. Confusing nightmares woke me up 3 times during the early morning. In one of them, Daniel had another face in the photos. In another, Sarah was crying at the altar. I woke up at 6 in the morning with a dry mouth and a churning stomach. I took a shower, I put on simple clothes, jeans and a blue blouse, and I left the house at 8:30. Michael's studio was downtown in one of those renovated old buildings with exposed brick walls and huge windows. The discreet sign next to the door read Porter Photography. I took a deep breath before ringing the bell. Michael received me personally. He was younger than I remembered from the wedding. Early 30s, dark hair, tired eyes. It looked like he had not slept well either. "Mrs. Emily, thank you for coming." He looked to the sides as if verifying that no one was watching us and closed the door quickly. "Please come with me." We went down a narrow hallway to a room in the back. Photographic equipment occupied the shelves. A huge computer dominated the central desk. Michael pulled up a chair for me and sat in front of the monitor. "Before I show you what I found," he began, "I want you to know that I thought a lot before calling you. I hesitated for weeks, but if I were in your place, I would want to know the truth." My stomach turned. "Show me. Now." He clicked a few times. The screen filled with thumbnails. wedding photos that I already knew. Then he opened a specific folder. These are images I took during the preparations before the ceremony. I arrived early to test the light, adjust the equipment. Michael opened a photo. My blood froze. It was Daniel, the son-in-law I helped choose a suit for the man who swore to love my daughter forever. He was in one of the hallways of the venue, still without his jacket, his tie loose, and he was kissing another woman. It was not a greeting kiss. It was intimate. Deep, his hands entangled in her blonde hair, her arms around his neck, the posture of two lovers who knew each other very well. When was this? My voice came out hoarse. Michael zoomed in on the image and pointed to the bottom corner. The metadata does not lie. Date, exact time, even the GPS location. 2 hours and 15 minutes before the ceremony began. 2 hours. While Sarah was in the beauty salon getting her hair done while I was adjusting the last details with the wedding planner, Daniel was there cheating on my daughter before even marrying her. There is more, Michael said softly, and clicked on the next photo. Another angle. Daniel and the blonde woman embracing. In this image, you could see her face clearly. Pretty, about 30 years old, flawless makeup. And on her finger, impossible not to notice a wedding ring. I felt the world spinning. I grabbed the edge of the desk so I would not fall. "Who is she?" I managed to ask. "I have no idea. I checked the guest list they gave me. She was not there. I believe she was not invited to the wedding." Michael opened 3 more photos. All showed Daniel and the blonde woman together in positions that left no doubts. It was not a casual encounter. It was planned, calculated, intimate. "Why were you taking photos in that hallway?" My voice sounded distant, as if it belonged to someone else. "I was testing different angles, playing with natural light. I captured these images by chance through a window. When I realized what I had photographed, I was in shock." He looked at me seriously. "Mrs. Emily, I have been a professional photographer for 10 years. I have seen many things, but this marrying a person while betraying them hours before this is different." I swallowed hard. "Are you absolutely sure these photos are real? That there is no error in the date?" Michael opened a technical window on the computer. Numbers, codes, information I barely understood. "These are the EXIF data of the file. Date, time, GPS coordinates, camera model settings. It is impossible to fake this convincingly. These photos were taken exactly when and where I said." He took a USB drive out of a drawer. "I copied everything here. The original photos, the metadata, the technical documentation. It would be accepted as evidence in any court. It is yours now. Do what you consider best." I took the USB drive with trembling hands and put it in my purse. My mind was spinning. Why? Why would Daniel do this? Why marry Sarah if he had another woman, a married woman with whom he was having an affair? The answer came slowly, cold as ice melting down my back. Money. Daniel always talked about the future, about investments, about how they needed to build a solid financial base. It was his idea that the guests give cash gifts instead of physical objects. "It is more practical, Emily. We can use it for the down payment on the house." They collected $15,000 in gifts. Sarah told me excitedly a few days after the wedding. $15,000 that now made perfect sense as motivation. "Mrs. Emily," Michael's voice brought me back. "Can I do anything else?" I stood up slowly. My legs felt like lead. "You have already done a lot. Thank you for telling me. I know it was not easy." He walked me to the door. "I am very sorry. Truly." I left the studio under a strong sun that contrasted with the cold I felt inside. I got into my car, but I did not start the engine. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. My daughter. My Sarah. How was I going to tell her this? I drove aimlessly for almost an hour. I drove past the downtown square where tourists walked without a care. I drove up to a scenic overlook where you could see the whole city. At no moment could I stop thinking about the photos, about Daniel's betrayal, about Sarah's naivety. I returned home around noon. The apartment was too silent. I put the USB drive on the kitchen table and stared at that tiny object that carried a bomb capable of destroying my daughter's life. Did she know? The question tormented me for the rest of the day. Would it be possible that Sarah knew about Daniel's affair and accepted it anyway? No. I knew my daughter. She was truly in love with him. Her eyes shined when she talked about her husband. The wedding had not been a farce for her. But for him, I opened my laptop and inserted the USB drive. The photos appeared on the screen, enlarged, cruel in their clarity. Daniel and the blonde woman, the kiss, the embrace, the obvious intimacy between two lovers. I thought about calling Sarah immediately, sending her the photos, exposing the truth. But something stopped me. I needed to understand the situation better before acting. I needed more information. I picked up the phone and called my sister Linda. She lived in Chicago, but she was always my confidant. She answered on the third ring. Emily, what a nice surprise. Linda, I need to talk to you. It is serious. The tone of my voice must have made it clear this was not a social call. She went silent for a moment. What happened? I told her everything. The call from the photographer, the photos, the blonde woman, the ring on her finger, the timing, 2 hours before the ceremony. Linda listened to me without interrupting. When I finished, she sighed deeply. My God, Emily, I do not even have words. I do not know what to do. How am I going to tell Sarah? You have to tell her. She has the right to know who she married. Linda's voice was firm. But before that, you have to investigate a little more, find out who that woman is, understand what is really going on. How do I do that? Do you know any of Daniel's friends? Someone who might know something, I thought. Daniel had few close friends. He was closed off, reserved. At the wedding, most of the guests were from Sarah's family or my acquaintances. On his side, only his widowed mother, 2 cousins, and the best man, Jason, a co-worker. The best man, I said. Jason, he works with him at the engineering firm. Try to talk to him. Carefully. Find out what he knows. After hanging up, I looked for Jason on social media. I found his profile quickly. I sent him a short message. Jason, this is Emily, Sarah's mom. Can we talk? It is important. He answered me half an hour later. Of course, Mrs. Emily. Is everything okay? I suggested coffee the next day. He accepted. That night was even worse than the previous one. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel kissing that woman. I saw Sarah smiling at the altar, having no idea she was marrying a liar. Friday morning, I got ready with care. I wanted to look calm, serene. I met Jason at a coffee shop downtown near his office. He arrived punctually in a gray suit, briefcase in hand. He greeted me with a polite smile. Mrs. Emily, so good to see you. How is Sarah? She is fine. I sat down and went straight to the point. I had no patience for small talk. Jason, I need to ask you some questions about Daniel, and I need you to be honest with me. His smile faltered. Questions about what? I took a deep breath. Is Daniel having an affair? Jason turned pale. His eyes shifted to the table. The silence that followed said everything. You know, I said quietly. You know something. He ran his hand through his hair, visibly uncomfortable. Mrs. Emily, I do not know if I should. Jason. My voice came out harder than I intended. My daughter has been married to him for 4 months. If there is something I should know, tell me now. He sighed deeply and looked around as if verifying that no one was listening. Then he leaned forward and spoke in a low voice. Daniel has a relationship with a woman named Jessica. She is also married. It is complicated. My stomach turned. How long has this been going on? More than a year, maybe 2, I am not sure. Jason seemed genuinely distressed. Mrs. Emily, I told him. I told him it was wrong to marry Sarah while keeping that going, but he said he was going to break up with Jessica after the wedding, that he needed to stabilize himself first. Stabilize himself? I repeated, the bitterness evident in my voice. You mean collect the wedding gifts? Jason looked down. I do not want to believe that is it, but I do not know. Daniel was always very focused on money, on status. And you remained his best man, despite knowing that I did not know what to do. Jason looked desperate now. He is my friend from years ago. I thought he would change, that marriage would make him mature. And Sarah looked so happy. I stood up abruptly. The chair screeched against the floor. Sarah is happy because she is living a lie. My daughter deserved the truth, and you stayed silent. Mrs. Emily, please. But I was already leaving. I had nothing else to say to him. Jason was an accomplice by omission. He knew and did nothing. In the car, my mind was at war. Part of me wanted to call Sarah immediately. Another part feared destroying her happiness. But it was a false happiness, an illusion built on lies and betrayal. I decided that before telling Sarah, I needed to confront Daniel. He deserved to know that I knew. He deserved to have the chance to explain himself. Although I could not imagine a possible explanation for those photos, I sent him a message. Daniel, I need to talk to you, alone. It is urgent. The answer came 15 minutes later. Did something happen with Sarah? No, it is about you. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning at my apartment. Do not mention anything to her. There was a long pause. Then, okay. I spent the entire Saturday mentally preparing for the confrontation. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would show the photos, how I would demand the truth. But when Daniel rang the doorbell at 10 o'clock sharp, all my preparation evaporated. He entered with that easy smile he always used with me. Good morning, Emily. Sorry for the intrigue, but your message left me worried. Is everything okay? I closed the door and faced him. Sit down. Something in my tone made his smile disappear. He sat on the sofa, tense. I took the laptop already with the photos open and put it on the coffee table in front of him. Explain this. Daniel looked at the screen. I saw the exact moment he recognized the image. His eyes widened, his face lost its color. He opened and closed his mouth several times without being able to speak. Where did you get that? Answer my question. Who is she? He ran his hand over his face. His shoulders slumped. For a moment I thought he was going to deny it to invent some cheap excuse, but to my surprise he said, It is Jessica, the name Jason had mentioned. The confirmation made my chest tighten even more. And you were with her 2 hours before marrying my daughter. Daniel did not answer, only looked at his own hands. 2 hours. My voice rose. You kissed another woman, a married woman, and then you went to the altar to swear to love Sarah. How can you do something like that? I love Sarah, he said quietly. You love... I let out a bitter laugh. You have a very strange way of showing love. He finally faced me. There was something different in his eyes now, something cold. You do not understand. My relationship with Jessica is complicated. I needed to get married. I needed to take that step in my life. Sarah is perfect for that. She is stable, hardworking, reliable. Perfect for that. As if my daughter were an asset in an investment portfolio. And the money, I asked. The $15,000 in gifts, was that why you married her? Daniel did not deny it. He just looked away. And in that silence, I found my answer. Get out of my house. I said, my voice trembling with rage. Now! Emily, wait! Get out! He got up quickly and headed for the door, but before leaving he turned. What are you going to do? What I should have done from the beginning. I am going to tell Sarah everything. His face closed up. That is going to destroy her. No, you are the one destroying her. I am just going to stop the destruction from continuing. Daniel left without saying anything else. I heard his hurried steps in the hallway, the noise of the elevator. When the silence returned, I collapsed on the sofa. My daughter. How was I going to tell my daughter this? After Daniel left, I stayed sitting on the sofa for almost an hour, trying to gather strength. The laptop was still on the table, the photos of his betrayal exposed on the screen. I closed the device with a dry click. I needed to tell Sarah. But how? How do you destroy the world of someone you love more than anything? I grabbed my cell phone and called her. It rang 4 times before she answered. Hi, Mom. Everything good? The joy in her voice broke my heart. Honey, I need to talk to you personally. Can you come over now? Now, Mom, it is Saturday. Daniel and I were going to go out to... It is important, Sarah. Very important. Please." There must have been something in my tone that alerted her. She stayed silent for an instant. "Is everything okay? Are you sick?" "I am not sick, but I need to talk to you urgently alone." "It is. Okay, I will be there in half an hour." I hung up and went to the kitchen to make coffee. My hands trembled while I measured the ground coffee. What was I going to say? How do you start a conversation like that? There was no easy way. Sarah arrived in 20 minutes. She had always been punctual. She knocked on the door and entered with that energy she always had. My vibrant daughter with a wide smile hair tied in a ponytail. She was wearing jeans and a floral blouse. "Mom, you scared me." She hugged me. "What happened?" I guided her to the sofa. I poured coffee for both of us, but neither touched the cup. Sarah watched me with growing concern. "Mom, tell me. You're making me nervous." I took a deep breath. There was no way to soften it. "Sarah, your wedding photographer called me this week. He found something in the photos, something you need to see." "Something in the photos? What would it be?" I took the laptop and opened the images again. I turned the screen toward her. "This." Sarah leaned in to see better. I saw her expression change. Confusion, then recognition, then absolute shock. She brought her hand to her mouth. Is that Daniel?" "Yes, 2 hours before the ceremony with a woman named Jessica." Sarah took the laptop from my hands and zoomed in on the photo. Her eyes scanned every detail. The kiss, the hug, the obvious intimacy. She went to the next photo and the next. When she finished seeing all of them, she put the laptop back on the table with excessive care, as if it were made of glass. "No, it cannot be true." "It is true, honey. The metadata proves it. Date, time, place. And I talked to Jason. He confirmed it. Daniel has been having an affair with that woman for over a year." Sarah shook her head. "No, Jason is lying. The photographer manipulated the photos. This is Sarah." I held her hand. "I confronted Daniel this morning. He admitted it. He said he loves you, but that his relationship with Jessica is complicated. His words, not mine." I saw the exact moment the truth penetrated her defenses. Her eyes filled with tears, her face contorted. She let go of my hand and stood up abruptly. He knew he was with her before marrying me." "Yes. And he went to the altar anyway. He swore to love me forever, knowing he was lying." "Yes." Sarah began to pace from one side to the other, hands in her hair. "I do not believe it. I cannot believe he did this to me." "Why him?" Her voice broke. The tears finally rolled. I got up and hugged her. She collapsed in my arms, sobbing. We stayed like that for several minutes, me holding my daughter while her world crumbled. "Why, Mom?" she asked between sobs. "Why would he do something like that? I loved him. I love him. I did everything right. I was a good wife. Why was I not enough? It is not about you, honey. It is about him, about the wrong choices he made." She pulled away, drying her face with the back of her hand. "I need to talk to him. I need to hear it from his mouth. Sarah, I need to, Mom. I need to understand." She took her purse and left before I could stop her. I heard the door slam shut, her quick steps down the hallway. I stayed there alone, the coffee getting cold on the table, the photos still open on the laptop. What had I done? Should I have told things differently, prepared the ground better? But there was no good way to give news like that. There was no gentle way to destroy an illusion. Sarah did not answer my calls the rest of the day. I sent her messages that went unanswered. At night, when I was about to call the police, she finally replied, "I am fine. We will talk tomorrow." I slept little that night. Sunday morning, Sarah appeared at my door at 8. She looked like she had not slept at all. Red and swollen eyes, messy hair, wrinkled clothes. She entered without saying anything and threw herself on the sofa. I stood waiting. "I confronted him," she said finally, her voice hoarse. "Yesterday afternoon, I told him about the photos, about what you told me. And he admitted everything. He said he has been with Jessica for 2 years, that she is married, has 2 kids, and cannot leave her husband. So he decided to marry me to to have a stable life while he keeps the affair. The cruelty of that left me speechless. And there is more, continued Sarah, now looking directly at me. The wedding gifts. The $15,000. He already transferred $10,000 to an account I did not even know existed. A joint account in his and Jessica's name. My blood boiled. He stole from you, not only from me, from everyone who gave gifts, our friends, our family. He used our wedding as a scheme to collect money. She laughed, a bitter and broken sound. And I was stupid enough not to realize. You are not stupid. You trusted him. There is nothing wrong with that. There is everything wrong. She stood up, her voice rising. How did I not see it? How did I not realize he was like that? What signs did I miss? I held her shoulders. Sarah, look at me. This is not your fault. Daniel is the one who chose to lie. He chose to betray. He chose to steal. None of that is on you. She collapsed again, crying. I spent the entire Sunday with her. We talked, we cried, we made plans. By late afternoon, Sarah had made a decision. I am going to divorce him. I want that man out of my life as soon as possible. I support you completely, and we are going to get that money back. How he already transferred everything. We are going to find a lawyer. Those transfers were made with wedding gift money, money that was given for both of you. He had no right to move anything without your consent. There is legal precedent for that. Monday morning, I scheduled a consultation with Mrs. Davis, a lawyer specializing in family law recommended by a friend. I took Sarah with me. Mrs. Davis received us in an elegant office downtown with a view of the skyline. We told her everything: the photos, the betrayal, the 2-year affair, the transferred money. Mrs. Davis took notes, her face impassive, professional. Ladies, she said when we finished, you have a strong case, very strong. The photos are evidence of adultery. The unauthorized transfers characterize misappropriation. We can initiate a contested divorce and ask not only for the return of the money, but also compensation for moral damages. How long will it take? Sarah asked. It depends. If he does not contest, a few months. If he contests, it can take over a year. But with the evidence you have, he would be foolish to contest. We signed the contract that same day. Mrs. Davis began preparing the paperwork immediately. Divorce process with a request for return of assets and moral damages. When we left the office, Sarah seemed different. Still destroyed, still hurt, but with a glint of determination in her eyes that was not there before. Mom, thank you for discovering the truth, for telling me even knowing it was going to hurt, for being here with me. I hugged my daughter there in the middle of the sidewalk, not caring about the people passing around us. I am always going to be with you, honey, always. In the following days, things happened quickly. Mrs. Davis initiated the divorce process. Daniel was served. He tried calling Sarah dozens of times, but she blocked his number. He tried showing up at the apartment, but she changed the locks. The news of the divorce spread fast. Friends called confused, wanting to know what had happened. Sarah did not go into details, just said it had not worked out. I did the same when they asked me, but the truth had a way of leaking out. 2 weeks after starting the process, I received a call from an unknown number. This time I answered. Hello. Emily. A female voice I did not recognize. My name is Jessica. I think we need to talk. Her name took me by surprise. Jessica, the blonde woman from the photos. My ex-son-in-law's mistress. For a moment I considered hanging up, but curiosity won. How did you get my number? From Daniel. Her voice sounded tired, maybe nervous. I know you must hate me, but please give me 5 minutes, just that. I looked around my empty living room. Sarah was at work. I had time. Speak. Jessica sighed on the other end of the line. First, I want you to know that I did not know he was using your wedding to get money. Not until last week, when he told me about the divorce, about the transfers, I was horrified. You have been together for 2 years, I replied, and you did not find it strange that he married another person. I did find it strange, of course I did, but he said he needed to do it, that his family pressured him, that it was important for his career. He said it was just a formality, that the true love was ours. I almost laughed at her naivety or her dishonesty. It was hard to know which. And you believed him. I wanted to believe. My marriage has been bad for years. My husband and I are just housemates without love, without connection. Daniel made me feel alive again. So I closed my eyes to the red flags. Why are you calling me Jessica? There was a long pause. Because I discovered something. Something I think you and your daughter need to know. My stomach tightened. What? Daniel did not transfer the money only to his account with me. He moved almost everything to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. $35,000. He is planning to disappear with everything. I sat heavily in the chair. How do you know that? I saw the documents. He left his laptop open at his house. I saw the bank statements, the international transfers, everything. And when I confronted him, he admitted it. He said he was going to disappear after the divorce, start a new life in another place. Why are you telling me this? You are his mistress. You should be protecting him. Her voice broke. Because I was deceived too. He told me the money was for the two of us, to build a life together when I could get a divorce. But the truth is, he was lying to everyone. To your daughter, to me, to everyone. And I do not want to be an accomplice to that. I did not know if I should believe her completely, but the information was too grave to ignore. Do you have proof? Copies of those documents? I do. I took photos of everything. I can send them to you now. Send them. Seconds later, my phone vibrated with a sequence of images. I opened them one by one. Here is the fully adapted and localized part 2 of the script, continuing the story with the same emotional intensity and U.S. formatting. They were bank statements, international wire transfer receipts, documents opening an offshore account, everything in Daniel's name. Did you get them? Jessica asked. I got them. I am going to forward them to my daughter's lawyer immediately. Emily, I am sorry, truly, for what I did, for the part I played in all this. I know it does not change anything, but I need you to know. I did not know he was like this. A con artist, a liar. You might not have known everything, Jessica, but you knew you were betraying a family. You knew he was betraying my daughter, so do not come looking for absolution from me. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking with rage. Daniel was not just a cheater, he was a criminal. He planned to flee with the wedding money, leaving Sarah with nothing. I called Mrs. Davis immediately. I explained about Jessica's call, about the offshore accounts, about the photos I had received. Send everything now, Mrs. Davis said, her voice sharp. This completely changes the case. He is hiding assets, attempting to defraud the proceedings. I am going to ask for an immediate freezing of all his accounts. And I'm going to notify the proper authorities. This could turn into a criminal case. I forwarded all the images to her email. Then I called Sarah at work. Mom, I cannot talk right now. I am in a meeting. It is about Daniel. It is urgent. I heard noise on the other end. Then she said, Give me a minute. Footsteps, a door closing. What happened? I told her about Jessica's call, about the money in the Cayman Islands, about Daniel's plan to disappear. Sarah stayed silent for so long, I thought the call had dropped. Honey, I am here. Her voice sounded hollow. I just cannot believe it. Every day I discover a new layer of lies. Who is this man? Because clearly he is not who I thought I knew. No one really knew him. He is a manipulator, a con artist. Can Mrs. Davis do something? She is already doing it. She is going to ask to freeze the accounts and notify the authorities. Daniel is not going to be able to run away with that money. I hope not, because if he manages to... Mom, that money is not just mine. They are gifts that our friends and family gave in good faith. People who saved up to help us. And he stole from all of them. After hanging up, I stayed sitting there thinking about everything that had happened in the last few days. From the photographer's call until now, my life and Sarah's life had been turned upside down. But in the middle of all this chaos, there was something good. The truth had come to light. Daniel had been exposed. And now, with the evidence of the offshore accounts, he was not going to be able to escape the consequences. Mrs. Davis worked fast. The next day, she got a court order that froze all of Daniel's accounts, both the domestic and international ones. He could not move a single cent without a court order. Daniel, desperate, tried to call Sarah again. When he could not get through, he called me. I answered just to hear what he had to say. "Emily, for the love of God, you have to stop this. Your lawyer froze everything. I cannot even pay my bills." "You should have thought about that before stealing $10,000 and trying to flee the country." "I was not going to flee. Who told you that Jessica?" "She is lying because I broke up with her." "I have the proof, Daniel. Photos of the bank statements of the documents for the offshore accounts. Everything." Silence on the other end. Then, "You guys do not understand. I needed that money. I have debts, a lot of debts. I was desperate." "So you used my daughter. You pretended to love her. You married her knowing you were going to betray and steal, all for debts." "It was not like that. I care about Sarah, truly, but..." "But what, Daniel?" "But you wanted the money more, Jessica, yourself." He hung up. I had no more news from him for a week, but Mrs. Davis did. He tried to negotiate through his lawyer return part of the money in exchange for Sarah dropping the moral damages claim. Mrs. Davis refused. We wanted everything back, and we wanted justice. The process moved forward. With the evidence we had, the photos of the affair, the bank statements, the unauthorized transfers, Sarah's case was ironclad. Daniel's lawyer knew it. 3 weeks after filing for divorce, they proposed a settlement. Daniel would return the $15,000 in full plus $5,000 in compensation for moral damages. The divorce would be consensual, uncontested. And he would sign an agreement committing to never try to contact Sarah again. Mrs. Davis called us to discuss the proposal. "It is a good deal. You get all the money back plus significant compensation, and you resolve everything quickly without dragging this out for months or years." Sarah was with me when we got the call. I looked at her. "What do you think, honey?" She bit her lip, thoughtful. "Is he admitting guilt with this agreement?" "Implicitly, yes," replied Mrs. Davis. "By returning the money and paying moral damages, he is acknowledging he acted wrongly." "Then I accept. I want this to end. I want him out of my life once and for all." We signed the agreement the following week. Daniel transferred the $20,000 in a single transaction. Sarah saw the money hit her account, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. "It is over," she said. "Finally over." But I knew it was not quite like that. The money had returned, yes. The divorce was on track. But the scars Daniel left on Sarah, on her trust, on her capacity to believe in relationships, those would take much longer to heal. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. Sarah was officially free. But free did not mean healed. She came back to live with me temporarily. She said she could not stay alone in the apartment, that every corner reminded her of Daniel, the plans they had made, the life she thought they were going to build together. She rented out the place and brought only the essentials, some clothes, books, personal items. At first it was hard. Sarah cried a lot. There were days she did not leave her room, others where she woke up furious, breaking things, screaming about how Daniel had destroyed everything. I let her vent. It was part of the healing process. Little by little, the breakdowns became less frequent. Sarah started to get interested in work again. She started going out with her friends again. She went to therapy, which helped enormously. Her therapist helped her process not only Daniel's betrayal, but also the fact that she had been the victim of an elaborate scam. "It was not your fault," I repeated every time she blamed herself. "You loved truly. You were honest. He is the one who chose to lie." One Thursday afternoon, 3 months after the divorce, Sarah came into the kitchen where I was making dinner. She was holding her cell phone, her face pale. "Mom, did you see..." "See what?" She showed me the screen. It was a post on Instagram. The photo showed Daniel smiling next to Jessica, the blonde woman from the photos. The two were on a beach, embracing with captions about new beginnings and true love. "She got back together with him," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "After everything, after she called me, after handing over the evidence against him, she went back." I looked at the photo. Daniel looked thinner, maybe stressed, but he was smiling without remorse, without guilt, simply moving on as if nothing had happened. "They deserve each other," I said. "Two manipulative liars perfect together." "But it makes me angry, Mom. He destroyed my life, and he is there happy as if nothing happened. Where is the justice in that?" I held her face with both hands. "The justice, honey, is that you are free. Free from a man who is going to make you unhappy for the rest of your life. Free to find someone who truly deserves you. That is justice." Sarah hugged me, and we stayed like that for a while. When she pulled away, she wiped her eyes and smiled. A small smile, still fragile, but real. "You are right, I escaped. He is Jessica's problem now." That night, Sarah deleted all the photos of Daniel from her social media. She blocked him and Jessica on all platforms. Symbolically, she was closing that chapter. The following months brought positive changes. Sarah received a promotion at work. She started practicing yoga. She made new friends. Slowly, piece by piece, she was rebuilding her life. I changed too. The whole experience taught me things about myself I did not know. I learned I had more strength than I imagined, that I was capable of facing difficult situations without crumbling, that protecting my daughter was my absolute priority, no matter the cost. I also developed a closer relationship with Sarah. Before we were mother and daughter with superficial conversations, work weather recipes. Now we talked about real things, fears, dreams, frustrations, hopes. The crisis brought us closer in a way that years of normality had not achieved. 6 months after the divorce, in the middle of a quiet Saturday, my cell phone rang. Unknown number again. This time I did not hesitate to answer. "Hello, Mrs. Emily," a formal male voice. "My name is Detective Miller from the State Police. I am investigating a fraud case related to Mr. Daniel Smith. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" My heart accelerated. "Yes, of course." "Are you aware that Mr. Daniel ran a scam at your daughter's wedding?" "Yes, we sued him. He returned the money through a settlement." "I understand, but what you might not know is that you were not the only victims. We received 3 other complaints from women who were involved with Mr. Daniel. He ran the same scam. He pretended to be in love, asked to borrow money for investments or emergencies, and then disappeared. We are gathering evidence for a criminal case." I was stunned. 3 other women. "Yes, ma'am. One of them lost $30,000, another $20,000. The third $15,000. He is a professional con artist. He used romantic relationships as a way to obtain money from victims." I thought about Sarah, about how she had felt special, chosen, loved. And it was all nothing more than a rehearsed farce, a script that Daniel repeated with every new victim. "What do you need from me, Detective?" "Your testimony and any evidence you have. Messages, photos, financial documents, everything helps build the case against him." "I have everything, and my daughter does too." "When do you want us to come down there? Can I schedule for Monday at 10 in the morning?" "We will be there." When I told Sarah, she was in shock. "Other women. He did this to other people." "Yes, several, and he would probably keep doing it if he was not exposed." Sarah sat down heavily. "So I was not even special to him. I was just one more target." "Do not think like that. You are special. You always were. He is the one who was worthless. And now he is going to pay for what he did." On Monday, we went to the precinct. Detective Miller received us in a small room with gray walls and a metal table. We spent 2 hours giving detailed statements. Sarah told about the relationship, the wedding, the discovery of the betrayal. I talked about Michael's photos, about Jessica's call, about the offshore accounts. Miller took notes, recorded everything, asked for clarifications. When we finished, he turned off the recorder and said, "Ladies, you just provided crucial evidence. With this and what the other victims gave us, we have a solid case. The district attorney will file charges for multiple counts of fraud and grand larceny. Daniel Smith is going to face criminal charges." "Can he go to prison?" Sarah asked. "He can. If convicted, the sentence for grand larceny and fraud goes from 4 to 8 years. And with multiple victims, the sentence can be increased." We left the precinct with a strange sensation. Not exactly happiness, but something close to justice. Daniel was not only going to lose money or reputation, he was going to answer to the law for his crimes. Weeks later, the district attorney filed charges against Daniel. He was indicted for 4 counts of fraud. The news made the local papers. Man arrested after running romance scams on multiple women. Sarah received messages from people she knew offering support. Some said they always found Daniel weird. Others admitted they never suspected. It did not matter. What mattered was that the truth had come to light. The trial was set for 6 months later. Mrs. Davis, our lawyer, told us the chances of conviction were high given the evidence. "You did the right thing by reporting him," she told us. "Not only for you, but for all the other women he could have hurt in the future." The months leading up to the trial were strange. Sarah tried to move on with her life, but Daniel's shadow still hovered over us. He tried to make contact a few times through unknown numbers' fake profiles on social media. Sarah blocked everything immediately. One time he appeared at the door of my building. The doorman called me asking if he could let him up. I refused categorically and asked him to call security if he did not leave. He left. But the invasion, however small, made us nervous for days. "Is he never going to stop?" Sarah asked, frustrated. "He will stop. When he is arrested, he will stop." I remained firm in my belief that justice would be served. I had to believe in that. For me, for Sarah, for all the other women Daniel had deceived. During that time, I met 2 of the other victims. Detective Miller put us in touch, thinking it might be therapeutic to talk. One of them, Karen, was 52 years old and had lost $20,000, her life savings. Daniel had met her on a dating app, courted her for months, asked to borrow money for a guaranteed investment, and then disappeared. The other, Julie, was 38 years old. She lost $15,000 that she had saved to buy a condo. Daniel had used exactly the same story. Investment, quick return, unique opportunity. She never saw the money again. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Initially, there was tension. 3 women who did not know each other, united only by the misfortune of having crossed paths with a con artist. But little by little, the conversation flowed. "He made me feel special," Karen said, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "After years alone, I thought I had finally found someone. I was so stupid." "You were not stupid," I said. "You were human. You trusted, you loved. There is nothing wrong with that." Julie agreed. He was convincing. He knew exactly what to say, how to act. He had an answer for everything. When I started to get suspicious, he made me feel guilty for not trusting him. Sarah was quiet, listening. Finally, she spoke. "I married him. I said vows. I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life by his side, and it was all a lie." Karen took Sarah's hand. "But you survived. All of us survived. And now he is going to pay." That afternoon created a bond between us. We exchanged numbers, created a WhatsApp group. We became unlikely friends united by pain, but also by strength. Each of us had lost something: money, time, trust. But we had also gained something: the certainty that we were not alone. The day of the trial finally arrived. It was a cold Tuesday in July. Me, Sarah, Karen, and Julie arrived at the courthouse together. Mrs. Davis was there giving us instructions on what to expect. "The DA has solid evidence. You will give statements if necessary. The defense attorney will try to discredit you, but keep calm. Tell the truth. That is all you need to do." We entered the courtroom. It was smaller than I imagined. Rows of wooden benches, a table for the judge, another for the parties. Daniel was already there, sitting next to his lawyer. When he saw us, his face went pale. It was the first time Sarah had seen him since the day she confronted him about the affair. I felt her tense up beside me. I held her hand. "You got this," I whispered. The judge entered and everyone stood up. He was a man of about 60, gray hair, severe expression. He banged the gavel and the session began. The prosecutor presented the case. He read the charges: 4 counts of fraud, grand larceny, concealment of assets. He explained Daniel's modus operandi: meeting women, winning them over, gaining trust, asking for money, disappearing, or in Sarah's case, using the marriage as a form of fundraising. The defense attorney argued that everything was a misunderstanding, that Daniel had indeed borrowed money, but with the intention of paying it back, that the marriage to Sarah was legitimate, based on love, and that the subsequent problems did not characterize a crime. It was a weak attempt. The evidence against Daniel was overwhelming. Karen was called to testify first. She told her story with a firm voice, detailing every lie of Daniel's every manipulation. The defense attorney tried to suggest she had given the money voluntarily, not as a loan. Karen stood firm. He said he would pay it back in 3 months with interest. I have the messages that prove it. It was a loan, not a gift, and he never intended to return it. Julie was next. Her story was similar. Daniel had used exactly the same tactics, the same excuses. It was clear he had a script, a pattern. Then it was Sarah's turn. She got up and walked to the witness stand. Her voice trembled at first, but gained strength as she spoke. She told about meeting Daniel, the dating, the engagement. The wedding that cost $25,000, the $15,000 in gifts. The discovery of the photos of the betrayal taken 2 hours before the ceremony. "He did not love me," Sarah said, looking directly at Daniel. "I was a means to an end, a way to get money. Just like the other women here, he used my feelings, my trust, and transformed the most important day of my life into a fraud." Daniel's lawyer tried to counter-argue, suggesting that the affair did not prove criminal intent. The prosecutor intervened, reminding that the unauthorized transfers to offshore accounts, combined with the pattern of behavior with other victims, clearly demonstrated premeditation and malice. I was not called to testify, but Mrs. Davis submitted my written statement along with the photos Michael had taken. The judge examined everything carefully. After the testimonies came the closing arguments. The prosecutor was incisive, painting Daniel as a predator who preyed on vulnerable women using romantic relationships as a way to commit financial crimes. The defense attorney tried to humanize Daniel, talking about financial difficulties, family pressures, but it sounded hollow before the pile of evidence. The judge announced he would give the sentence in 15 days. He banged the gavel and the session was adjourned. Outside the courthouse, the 4 victims and Mrs. Davis gathered. We were exhausted, but also relieved. We did our part. Now it was just waiting. "How do you think the sentencing will go?" asked Julie. "With the evidence we have, it would be a surprise if he was not convicted," replied Mrs. Davis. "But we never know for sure. Judges are unpredictable." Sarah was quiet, looking at the courthouse building. "I just want it to end, for him to stay away from me, that he cannot do this to anyone else." "It is going to end," I promised. "Soon." The 15 days of waiting were torturous. Every morning I woke up thinking about the sentence. Every night I went to sleep imagining scenarios. Daniel being acquitted on some technicality, Daniel being sentenced to a light penalty, Daniel managing to run away. My mind did not rest. Sarah tried to keep the routine, but I saw the anxiety in her eyes. She checked her phone compulsively, waiting for Mrs. Davis's call. She lost a few pounds. She had trouble sleeping again. "What if he is not convicted?" she asked me one night while drinking tea in the kitchen. "What if the judge believes his story?" "He won't," I interrupted. "The evidence is clear. The pattern of behavior is documented. 4 women with identical stories. He is going to pay honey. He has to pay." On the 13th day, Mrs. Davis called. "The verdict comes out tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon. Do you want to be present?" "Yes," I replied without hesitation. "We will be there." That night I barely slept. I tossed and turned in bed, looking at the ceiling, praying. I am not very religious, but in that moment I asked God or the universe or whatever force existed to do justice. The next morning, Sarah came into my room early. "Mom, I am scared." I sat up in bed and opened my arms. She came and laid down next to me like she did when she was a child and had nightmares. We stayed like that for several minutes in silence. "No matter what happens today," I said finally, "you already won. You survived, you rebuilt yourself, you are stronger than ever. The sentence is just a detail." "It does not feel like a detail." "I know, but it is, because your life does not depend on him anymore. You are free. No one can take that away from you." We got ready with care. Sarah put on a navy blue suit, me a white blouse and black pants. We wanted to look respectable, serious. We wanted the judge to see that we were dignified people who deserved justice. Karen and Julie met us at the courthouse door. They were as nervous as we were. Mrs. Davis arrived minutes later, briefcase in hand, posture confident. "Ready?" We entered together. The courtroom was fuller this time. Reporters occupied some benches. The case had caught the attention of local media. The sweetheart swindler, as some outlets called him. Daniel was there again, but he looked different. Thinner, unshaven beard, sunken eyes. The months since the trial had not been kind to him. Good. The judge entered. Everyone stood up. My heart beat so fast I thought everyone in the room could hear it. The judge sat down, adjusted his glasses, and began to read the sentence. His voice was monotone, technical, reading fragments of the law, citing precedents. I could barely process the words. I was just waiting for the verdict. Then he reached the crucial point. Given the evidence presented, including consistent testimonies from 4 victims, documentary evidence of fraudulent transfers, and a clear pattern of criminal behavior, this court finds the defendant, Daniel Smith, guilty of the crimes of grand larceny and fraud on 4 separate occasions. I held Sarah's hand. She squeezed mine back. The judge continued. Considering the gravity of the facts, the harm caused to the victims, and the evident premeditation, I sentenced the defendant to a penalty of 6 years in prison in a closed facility, in addition to the payment of restitution to the victims for the material and moral damages caused. 6 years. He was going to prison. For real. Daniel's lawyer tried to ask for the floor, probably to appeal, or ask for a reduction of the sentence, but the judge banged the gavel. The session is concluded. The defendant will be taken into custody immediately. 2 court officers approached Daniel. I saw the moment reality hit him. Eyes wide, face pale, hands trembling. He looked at Sarah one last time, not with regret, but with something that looked like desperation. Sarah returned the look, her face impassive. She said nothing. She just watched while the officers put the handcuffs on his wrists and took him out of the room. When the door closed behind him, something changed in the air, as if an invisible weight had been lifted. I took a deep breath for the first time in hours. "It is over," Mrs. Davis said, smiling. "You did it." Karen began to cry. Julie hugged her. Sarah stood there looking at the door where Daniel had left. "Honey?" I touched her shoulder. She turned to me. There were tears in her eyes, but also something else. Relief, peace. "It is really over, Mom. Finally over." We left the courthouse under the strong afternoon sun. Reporters surrounded us asking questions. Mrs. Davis pushed them aside politely, saying we would make a brief statement. Sarah stepped forward. "I want other women to know that it is possible to seek justice. It is possible to survive. Men like Daniel count on our silence, our shame. But when we speak up, when we report them, when we support each other, they lose their power." It was a short statement, but powerful. The reporters wrote everything down. Some cameras filmed. Afterward, the 4 victims, now survivors, hugged in a circle there on the sidewalk. Women of different ages and stories, united by trauma, but also by strength. "Thank you," said Karen, "for reporting him, for not giving up, for giving us the courage to do the same." "We thank you," replied Sarah. "Alone, maybe we would not have made it, but together, we were unstoppable." We said goodbye with promises to keep in touch, to support each other, and we would keep those promises. The WhatsApp group we created would remain active. We would meet occasionally for coffee. We were an unlikely sisterhood, but genuine. On the way home, Sarah was quiet. I drove in silence, giving her space to process. When we parked at the building, she finally spoke. "Mom, thank you." "For what?" "For believing in me, for protecting me, for discovering the truth, even knowing it was going to hurt me, for being by my side at every stage of this horrible journey." Her voice broke. "I do not know what I would have done without you." I held her face. "You are my daughter. I am always going to fight for you. Always." That night, Sarah slept at home for the first time in months without nightmares. Me too. 3 months passed since the sentencing. Life returned to a normal routine, or as normal as possible after everything that happened. Sarah decided not to return to the apartment she had rented out. She sold the place and used the money, along with the restitution she received from Daniel, to buy a new one. Smaller, cozier, in a neighborhood she always wanted. A complete restart. She invited me to see the condo the day she picked up the keys. It was on the fourth floor of a small building with a view of the city. 2 bedrooms, spacious living room, modern kitchen. Simple, but perfect for her. "What did you think, Mom?" She smiled, that genuine smile I had not seen in so long. "It is mine. Just mine. No bad memories, no lies, just mine." I helped her decorate. We chose furniture together, paintings for the walls, plants for the balcony. Every item was an affirmation of independence of reconstruction. Sarah also made professional changes. She requested a transfer to another branch of the real estate agency where she worked in a different neighborhood. She wanted distance from anything that reminded her of Daniel, including the places they used to go together. As for me, I discovered a strength I did not know I had. For months I was the pillar for Sarah, the strong person, the one who did not falter. But when everything calmed down, when she was safe and moving on, I realized that I also had scars from this experience. The discovery of the photos, the confrontation with Daniel, the legal process, everything had affected me more than I admitted. I started going to therapy too. I needed to process the anger I felt, the fear that something like that would happen again. The irrational guilt for not realizing who Daniel was sooner. My therapist, Dr. Sarah, yes, the same name as my daughter, which made me smile in the first session, helped me understand that there was nothing I could have done differently. Daniel was an experienced manipulator. He deceived everyone. It was not a failure of mine, nor of Sarah's. "You did what anyone would do," she told me. "You trusted, you loved, and when you discovered the truth, you acted. You sought justice. That requires immense courage." The sessions helped me. I started sleeping better, feeling less guilty, accepting that some people are simply bad, and there is nothing we can do to predict or prevent that. One Saturday afternoon, 5 months after the sentencing, Sarah appeared at my house without warning. She had a different expression, nervous but also excited. "Mom, I need to tell you something." My heart skipped a beat. "What happened? Did something happen?" "No, nothing bad. It is just that I met someone." I sat down slowly. "Someone. A man. His name is David. He works at the same company as me, but in another department. We started talking a few weeks ago. He invited me to dinner. I accepted." My first reaction was fear. Fear that Sarah would get hurt again. Fear that this David was another Daniel. But then I looked at her face, the shine in her eyes, the shy smile, and I saw something important. Hope. "Do you like him?" "It is still early to tell, but he is kind, respectful. He did not rush anything." "And Mom, I did a complete background check." She laughed, half embarrassed. "I looked up his name on the internet, checked his social media, talked to colleagues who have known him for years. I learned to be more careful." "That is good. You are protecting yourself. But I also do not want you to live in fear forever. I do not want Daniel to have stolen your ability to trust, to love again." I held her hand. "So I will go slow. I am going to get to know David. I am going to see where this leads. But this time with my eyes open." I hugged my daughter. "I am proud of you, of how you recovered, of how you are rebuilding your life with wisdom and courage." "I learned from the best," she said, smiling. The dinner with David happened. Then another and another. Sarah told me about them. Deep conversations, laughter, genuine connection. She was happy but cautious. She did not give herself completely. She maintained healthy barriers. I met David 2 months later. He came to dinner at my apartment at Sarah's invitation. He was a tall man with glasses, a friendly smile. He worked as a civil engineer. Divorced for 3 years, no kids. He seemed genuinely interested in Sarah, asking questions about her, listening with attention. I observed them during dinner, the way he looked at her with respect, how he waited for her to finish speaking before answering, how he treated her as an equal, not as something to be conquered or controlled. He was not Daniel, not by a long shot. After he left, Sarah stayed to help me wash the dishes. "Well, what did you think?" "I thought he seems like a good person, but time will tell." "I know, I am going slow, I promised myself that at the first warning signs I am leaving. I am not going to ignore red flags again. That is wise. She dried her hands and hugged me. Mom, do you know what I realized? That Daniel could not destroy me. He tried, but he failed. I am here, alive, strong, and capable of loving again. That means I won. Tears filled my eyes. You won. Most definitely, you won. Today, a year after that fateful call from the photographer, I look back and see the path we traveled. It was painful. It was difficult. There were moments I thought Sarah would not recover. Moments when I doubted myself if we had done the right thing by exposing everything. But we did, and it was worth it. Daniel serves his sentence. We found out through Mrs. Davis that he tried to reduce the sentence on appeal, but it was denied. He will remain in prison for the next few years, and when he gets out, he will have a criminal record that will follow him forever. Jessica. I found out through Karen. She got divorced. The exposure of the case destroyed her marriage too. Poetic justice, in a way. As for us, me, Sarah, Karen, Julie, we move forward. Wiser, more careful, but not broken. Sarah and David are still together. The relationship progresses slowly with respect and honesty. She keeps going to therapy. She still has hard days, but they are increasingly rare. I return to my routine. I work as a financial consultant. Ironic, considering I did not realize Daniel was a con artist. But maybe because of that now, I help other people identify signs of fraud. I also became a volunteer at a nonprofit that supports victims of romance scams. I use my story, our story, to help other women find the strength to report to seek justice. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if the photographer had not called. If Michael had decided to delete those photos and move on. Would Sarah have discovered the betrayal eventually? Or would she live for years in a fake marriage, being deceived, manipulated? There is no way to know. But I am grateful every day for his courage to tell me the truth. Because the truth, however painful it may be, is always better than a comfortable lie. Today, as I write these words, Sarah is in her apartment decorating to host David for dinner. She called me earlier asking for recipe tips. We laughed together on the phone. The sound of her laugh, genuine, free, happy, was music to my ears. We survived. More than that, we thrived. And if there is a lesson I learned from all this, it is that no matter how dark the valley is, there is always a way to the other side. Sometimes we need help to find it. Sometimes we need the courage of other people to have our own courage. But the path exists, and we found it. Now, if you liked this story, click subscribe. And tell me in the comments which part left you with your mouth open. Oh, and do not forget to become a member to have access to exclusive videos that I do not publish here. I will wait for you there.